In today's video, I take a less than classic approach to one of the strongest decks in the Digimon TCG. Let's get started. Welcome back everyone, my name is Steven Rodriguez, I'm your true champion, and I know, I have done like 18 plus videos on green on this channel ever since the game came out, and that's because personally green is one of my favorite colors, and as a set 1.5 it's officially one of the best colors in the game, and so there's a lot of things going in my mind all the time when it comes to playtesting with this deck. And I've been running around with a list that I kind of wanted to share with you guys for the past couple days now, and I think it is super cool. It kind of strays away from that quote-unquote tempo control style of green that we're currently seeing. It still has many of those attributes within it because that's just how the color works. I mean, the only way you can control things is by resting and swinging at them. That's an inherently tempo thing to do, but it has some really cool aggressive options within it because I feel like 1.5 is a format that actually opens the door for a lot of aggressive strategies. Rookie Rush, Imperial, and under some lights, even Red Omni can be aggressive. So I figured, why not green? If you guys are excited for the continuation of some awesome Digimon content, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications so you know when my videos go live for you. And if there's anything in this video you want me to elaborate on or just talk more about, feel free to hop into my Twitch channel, ask some questions live and in person, and hopefully get some answers. Links to my Twitch down below, as always. But with that being said, let's take a look at one of my many deck lists for set 1.5 green in the Digimon TCG. Alright boys and girls, here we are at the tabletop setup. I have my 1.5 green kill deck in front of me. I'm affectionately calling it green kill because, like I said, it is a bit more aggressive than the average green deck you'll find in this format. But anyways, enough semantics, let's go through the card by card. First things first, we have the 5 Digi-Eggs or Digitama. We are running the full 5 because we're playing Mimi in this deck, and you can actually get that 5 filter pretty quickly. We are running 3 copies of Tamer from 1.0 and 2 copies of AGGRO from 1.5. First things first, we're running Tamer in this deck over Minomon because we want to be more generic about our plus 1000 DP in this deck because we do attack security quite often, and while Minomon is really nice for clearing out threats and making sure you're stronger than them, it's not so nice when you're attacking just security. But Tamer can be just a generic 1k that can be applied to attacking your opponent's Digimon while also attacking their security at the same time. And then rounding off, we're running 2 copies of the AGGRO level 2. This is for that just extra bit of memory so that way we can get some nice extension during our turns. Going from like 1 to 2 can mean we can do all kinds of different things. Going from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, because we do play Mimi in this deck, is really useful. And I think 2 is a pretty solid number. If you want to make it 1-4, you totally can, but for now I haven't had a problem with this lineup. Moving on to our level 3s, we're running a full 15. Level 3s are probably the most important resource this deck has, not only as finishing attackers for when you're trying to win the game, but also download / Digisorption fodder, so that way you can make your evolution costs cheaper and get some powerful Digimon in play a lot quicker. First things first, we are running 4 copies of Gobbly and 2 copies of AGGRO level 3, making our vanilla count in this deck 6. I know in past green decks I've always preached that 8 is the best, but in this deck we are running both the level 5 and the level 6 AGGRO, so limiting the amount of AGGRO we play on the lower levels means it's less likely for our Omnimon opponents to actually get rid of multiple things when they go for set 1.0 Omni, so this is kind of like a deterrence from really big value plays against our opponent. However, if you want to make the gamble and run the full 4-4, you are not wrong. That's a super awesome lineup. For now, I'm just really afraid of Omnimon, so I'm steering away from that. Moving on to our ability level 3s, we have 4 copies of Agumon, the just generically strongest level 3 in green, 3 copies of Terriermon, the best like tech card in green right now for mirror match, blue matchups, and occasionally red matchups if they try to be sneaky with their Biyumons, and then 2 copies of Tentomon. This is the card that I took out and replaced AGGRO with. You can run cards like Arurumon in this slot, however, evolving rookies is very useful in this deck because we do play Mimi, and I don't want to run any rookies that have evolution costs because that'll make it less valuable to actually evolve and then flash them into play with Mimi. Moving on to our 12 level 4s, we have 4 copies of Kabuterimon and 4 copies of Gargomon. They are literally the exact same card minus 1 more expensive cost to play, plus 1 more 1000 DP on Kabuterimon, but they both have the inheritable effect of your turn. This Digimon gets power plus 1000 for each of your opponent's rested Digimon. Power gainers are so important in green. Not only can it help you swing over more powerful Digimon like 12k Vanillas or Omnimons, but when you're attacking security with multiple checks with like a Bancho Stingmon or an Argomon, making sure you're more powerful leads to you living and getting all of your checks to fully resolve. Honestly, maxing out on power gainers is one of the best things you can do in any green deck, let alone this green deck. And finally, rounding off our level 4s, we're doing sort of a meta call with 4 copies of Vegiemon. Vegiemon and Woodmon are the only green level 4s that exist that have 6000 DP. So if we want to play into our worst matchup, which is Alter S, aka Red Omni, we need to play some kind of level 4s that have 6000 DP. So when our ultimates get de-digivolved, we still get to keep the bodies on board, and we can sort of download ramp from there and respond to our opponent. Now, the reason we're not playing Woodmon and instead playing Vegiemon is because I don't think you need Woodmon in a green deck right now. I feel like the way you win with green is so like demanding and you dominate your opponent's boards that playing blockers feels like a waste sometimes. And we make up for it in our ultimate slots by playing cards like Cherrymon. So playing a card like Vegiemon instead lets me be more memory efficient. I can hard play this when I have Mimi choke my opponent at 1, have a powerful dude just sit there. It's another 1 cost evolution, making our turn 1s almost guaranteed to choke our opponents and slow them down the early game. Frankly, I feel like a card like Vegiemon is just in all instances better than a card like Woodmon, given this format. In the future, blockers will become absolutely broken. You have to play as many as possible, but for now, I think you don't need to play any in the level 4 slot. Now, I will mention some other techs you can play other than blockers and Vegiemon if you're truly not afraid of fighting against Alter S. I think a card like Argomon level 4 and Stingmon would be super awesome inclusions for this deck. Being able to have extra targets for your Ceresmons or just easier ramp into your level 5s and 6s is super nice. And having Stingmon as like a level 4 Akuamon to gain even more memory and even more extension of your plays during your turn is super sweet. But I am very afraid of Red Omni, and so I am running the Vegiemons to try and counter that. Up next, we have our level 5s, and I'm actually running a very high count level 5s in this deck. I'm running 10 in total. We've got our main download package, 4 copies of Argomon level 5, shout out to Card of the Day series, and 4 copies of Blossomon. These are the 2 download level 5s that exist. They combo super nicely with our Ceresmon to rest our opponent's units and let us ramp into more powerful Digimon during our turn. Argomon has a super awesome effect to play rested Digimon when you swing. This combos nicely with the level 6 Argomon to increase his security attacks. It's almost like these 2 cards were designed to work together. It's pretty funny. I feel like you could cut one Blossomon if you wanted to like add numbers into other places, but for now this just feels super solid. And finally, rounding off, like I said, I am playing 2 copies of Cherrymon. If I'm gonna play any blockers in my deck, it's gonna be the best blocker, and I think that's Cherrymon for this format for 2 reasons. Number 1, he can attack and not cost you memory, and number 2, he's 7000 DP, which means against Imperial Dramon decks, if they ever swing with their Dino Beamon or their Pyeel Dramon, you can block and trade with them, which is super valuable because that deck is very bad at actually getting enough units in play to actually present lethal, and so every bit of control you can do is super nice. But if you want to put more level 4 blockers in over the Vegiemons, making this 2 copies of Rapidmon would be super nice. It increases the amount of power gainers you have and can lead to you having Ceresmons that can swing into Omnimons even if your opponent is playing around you and not calling that many units on board. And rounding off, we have, of course, our level 6s. I'm running a full 8. We have 4 copies of Ceresmon, the Queen of Green herself. She enables download to be one of the most powerful mechanics in the game to have constant board control against your opponent while also increasing the tempo of your Digimon evolutions, which is just super sweet. She's 12,000 DP normally, which is kind of ridiculous, especially when you combine it with all the power gainers we have in our deck. If you literally have 1 Tainamon, 1 Gargomon, and 1 Agumon, and your opponent has 1 rested unit in play, she becomes as strong as Omni. If they have 2, you become stronger than Omni, which is just hilarious. But she is not the main attackers of the deck. That is reserved for these 2. We have 2 Bancho Stingmon and 2 Argomon level 6. Firstly, like I've been saying this entire video, I am afraid of Omnimon Red, so we're playing 2 copies of Bancho in this deck. He is just the obvious counter that exists to Omnimon decks. Slash is really nice against Imperial decks, and even just cheeky like Blue Omni or decks that play 12,000 plus dudes, which is super nice. And then we have Argomon, sort of the generic main attacker of this deck. In case you guys don't know what he does, he has download 3, so he's another target for Ceresmon, but he still costs 2 to Digivolve, and he has a your turn effect. For each of your other suspended Digimon, this Digimon gains plus security attack. So a really cool thing you can do is if you have like 2 other units in play and then this guy, you can like swing twice. Swing with this. If you have an Argomon underneath this guy's stack, you can call a rested rookie from your hand, and then that adds to his security attack because it says your turn, not when attacking. And so you have 1, 2, 3 plus security attack, so you're swinging for 4 damage. If your opponent's at like 3 security, just leave one of your other dudes standing, and now you have a lethal push out of nowhere against your opponent, which is just super nice. Honestly, when you combine this kind of like aggression package with all the natural control that green has in set 1.5, the deck feels just really, really strong and can close out games quickly. Now, while I may still prefer cards like Mega Gargomon to help slow my opponent down and always maintain that board control, cards like Argomon and Bancho Stingmon just go, okay, even if you do get a board established, it doesn't matter because I'm just gonna kill you, so who cares? And that's what I think this deck can offer, is like, on those moments where you fail to actually control your opponent's board, you just win the game before they can actually do anything with that board they made. So that's pretty much it for the Digimon. Again, some other megas you can play are like Mega Gargomon, you can play Titamon, you can even play Rusty if you want to. I wouldn't recommend you do that though because, surprise, surprise, we're not playing any hidden potential discovered in this deck. Let's explain. Instead of Hidden Potential Discovered, I am playing 2 copies of Mimi Tachikawa, probably one of the strongest Tamer cards in the game, getting that guaranteed 3 memory. This is super useful with our Argomons and with our Ceresmons, so that way we can still attack the turn we go for these download effects, because if our opponent chokes us at 1, we still have to pass our turn, which is never fun. But she also has the effect that if you have a level 5 or higher green Digimon in play, you can rest her to hatch or promote from your raising area an additional time during that turn, which is really nice for adding to your board consistency, to adding to your board width, so that way you can have more download fodder or just more attackers to close out games. But it's also just really nice for helping you filter through your deck because you are getting extra evolutions every time you evolve into a level 3. So Mimi is a nice way just to kind of keep this deck constantly moving, and I think it's actually a better card to play than HPD. Now, that being said, this deck does lose a lot when the restriction happens, even though you're not playing HPD, because you lose your 4 copies of Argomon. This is the card that makes this deck actually happen. It adds to the security tax for this guy to make him more powerful. Without this, you do lose a gigantic combo piece for this specific aggressive strategy. However, if you don't care about that, the deck will still be plenty viable because you're already naturally playing Mimi anyway. So you're probably asking yourself, Steven, if you're not playing HPD, what are you playing as your option cards? Flower Cannon? Well, random citizen, we are actually playing 3 copies of Hornbuster. I have been saying all video, this deck is an aggro green strategy, and this card is the most aggressive green card that exists. It is the cost 1, gain 2000 DP card with the security effect to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then add this card to your hand. The main thing I love doing with this is just saving it for a gigantic turn where I have Argomon. If I have at least 1 power gainer in play with this card, and my opponent has like 2 rested dudes, or God forbid like 3 or whatever, I can play Hornbuster and make him close to 16,000 DP, meaning there's no Digimon in the security that can actually kill him. So when I go for those lethal swings that get rid of all the security, I land. That is super important to me. And what's really cool about this too is I can actually control a lot of different level 6s using just my level 5s. I've used this plus Hornbust. I've used cards like Blossomon plus Hornbuster plus like Kabuterimon to get rid of like 11,000 plus DP level 6s that are rested. It's honestly a super useful tech. And whenever you do check it in security, this can actually rest blockers. And so you can actually go in for game a lot easier on the following turn in the late game. So this card is as impactful as a card like Flower Cannon, but it's cheaper to use. And if you ever see it in security, it instantly goes to your hand. So the only place it's truly useless is in the trash pile. And that's that's honestly super cool. So I really do love Hornbuster, and since you don't need to play HBD and we're playing so many Digimon anyway, I figured this would be a nice inclusion. If you don't want to play this, you can cut one, run an extra Mimi, and then play like 2 Flower Cannon if you really want to, but for now, Hornbuster in testing has been super useful in this deck, and I highly recommend you try it out. And boom, there you guys go. That'll go ahead and do it for one of my less than classic builds on green in set 1.5. Hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell with notifications so you know when my videos go live for you. And if there's anything in this video that you were confused about or you want me to elaborate on, feel free to hop into my Twitch channel. I go live all the time and I spend tons of time in just chatting, so you can come, stop by, hang out, ask some questions, and hopefully get some live answers from me. Links to my Twitch down below, as always. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I've been your true champion, Steven. Please be sure to work hard, rest easy, and live well. And I will see you all next time. Peace.